Former John Diaz, who served as Seattle police chief from 2010 to 2013, has been tapped to fill that role.
Yeah, but it is a job that does not come without controversy, namely over the construction of a new youth detention center. Activists argued the county should have instead invested in alternatives to incarcerating kids. So John Diaz joining our Brandi Kruse in studio this morning to talk about the challenges of his new role. Hi, Brandi.
Good morning. I'm sure that's exactly what you want to talk about, more controversy.
I miss it, actually.
Okay, well, we'll give you some then. You had a quote in the Seattle Times that I thought I had to chuckle at it a little bit when you talked about taking on this new job, and you're 37 years in policing. You said this job is similar. There may not be rewards coming your way for doing the job, but it's incredibly necessary. So you're not expecting a lot of praise in this new role.
And when I was talking, I was really talking about the men and women that do the job each and every day.
Yeah.
They're incredibly dedicated. I've had a chance to meet a lot of them through all the different facilities, and they're smart, they're dedicated, they're doing difficult work, and they know there's not going to be a lot of rewards at the end of it. Except for, I think, the most important one, which is occasionally they have that chance to change someone's life.
Yeah, so for you, he's been the interim director since April, so we were saying you kind of got to try out the job before taking it. What was it that sold you on getting back into public service after serving as SPD chief?
Well, when I first started, at the request of Dow Constantine, I first looked at just being the interim, and they were continuing that national search. I did have a chance to do something that I always like to do, which is I really try to do a deep dive into the organization. So I had a chance to go to all the different facilities, meet tons of different corrections officers and juvenile detention officers, and I was incredibly impressed by the men and women of the organization. It's a complicated system. If I could give you just a quick little overview, there's about 1,000 employees. We have a daily population of about 2,000 inmates, about 50,000 bookings a year. 70% of the people that come into our system are only there for about 72 hours.
Yeah, short period of time.
Right.
So you asked for controversy. Let's talk about some of it. You know that there's been protests over the construction of a new youth jail. There are people who believe that youth should not be put in detention facilities at all. I mean, I don't know that that's realistic. I know some of the crimes that have been committed by youth, but for you, how do you deal with that controversy? And the way the county reacted is they put forward this goal towards zero youth detention, setting that out as a goal for the county. Is that even realistic, and what is your role in trying to get there?
Well, I think it's a very bold goal. We have to say that to begin with. But as an example, right now we're a county of approximately about 2.2 million people. We have 43 kids right now that are in detention. Mm-hmm. Granted, they're in there for serious crimes. The goal of zero youth detention is really starting from the time new parents are having a baby, working through the entire approach of how the community, how could the county, how could government help ensure that these kids have the best chance in life to thrive.
Making sure that they don't even get to a point where
and that's exactly it. The goal is really to try not to get them to touch the juvenile detention system. I think most of the science will tell you that nothing good comes from that. But that being the case, once people are in detention, we have to do all we can to try to help these kids get back out and live productive lives.
But as a former law enforcement official, do you believe that the goal of zero youth detention is realistic, or was that just a kind of catchphrase the county threw out to silence protesters?
No, I think it's really obviously it's a stretch goal, but it's one that it's an important approach that we should try to be doing. I happen to have 3 kids, and throughout their time that they're now adults now, were there times that they made mistakes? Yes. Mm-hmm. Would I wanted any of them to end up in juvenile detention? Of course not. And what could we have done to help support kids throughout their young lives? And that's what we should be doing. And I think if we take it from that approach, we really can continue to reduce the use of detention.
So let's talk quickly if you're the right person for this job. You were SPD chief from 2010 to 2013.
Yeah, I was interim for a year prior to that.
Yeah, and this was in the midst of SPD really being investigated by the DOJ, coming out of that investigation, and then finding some serious concerns with SPD. There you are. What a blast from the past this is for me, too. You know, at the time, you had people who were critical of you, who thought you were part of a culture of cover-up at SPD. That was the former head of the Seattle-King County NAACP. You know, if people thought that of you then, are you the right person to be heading this agency, which requires so much public trust?
Well, at the end of the day, I think you have to look at my entire career. There's always going to be people that are critical of someone who's a leader.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is you're making decisions. And one thing I could guarantee is the type of jobs I've taken, these type of jobs, all the easy decisions are made long before they ever get to you. I'd love to have a few softballs thrown every so often at my desk, but that never happens. So you're constantly going to be making tough decisions, and people are going to be critical of that, which is fine. But at the end of the day, somebody has to be making those decisions. I started as a young officer in the military as a criminal investigator. I had a 4-day hiatus before I started the SPD Academy, and I've worked my way up through the ranks. Throughout that entire time, I've always tried to make the decision that I thought was the best decision. I'm not always saying it was the right decision, but it was the best decision that I believe was the correct one. So I understand the criticism. You're always going to be critical of someone who's making those kind of tough calls.
Yeah. Well, and you being here and sitting with us, knowing, you know, some of the controversy surrounding the new job and some of those questions, I think speaks volumes. And we hope that you'll be back if there are any issues that the jail system encounters, controversies that we need to address. John Diaz, thank you for being here. It's great to be sitting back in front of you. We're both about 7 years older than the last time I think that we sat in front of each other. So.
Yes, it's feeling a lot older for me. But I'm,
Well, we appreciate you being here, and hopefully we'll have you back in soon.
Great. Thank you.
MJ, we're going to get a check of the weather.